What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of the Sheehan Show here on Sherdog.com. My name is Sean Sheehan, and today I'm looking ahead to KSW 88, which goes down in the Holla RCS Sport Arena over in Poland. And it's another big card for the Polish contingent, another big card for KSW, and a very interesting time, I think, for European MMA. The last time we spoke about KSW, I mentioned, about how KSW maybe isn't talked about enough in the chasing back, I suppose, the hunt for the number 2, 3, 4 promotion in the world, and it should be. But I think at the moment, what we really have is a fight for European dominance. And I briefly touched on this before, maybe just to touch on it again before we get into this card, because I think around now is a very prevalent time to speak about it. We just had Octagon last week, who put on, in my opinion, their best card ever in terms of names. You know, they had the likes of Anton Rakic, who we've seen in KSW. Jutan to be on the card. Actually, he didn't end up fighting in the end, but they had Jack Cartwright, they had Scott Ascom, they had Aaron Abbey, and many, many more as well, names that we've known down through the years. So they're in a real good place now. We have Cage Warriors, who will also have a preview for putting on a very good card here. They have the likes of Paul Hughes still as well, and many others. And we have many others as well, but PFL, I suppose, being the big ones, putting on this fantastic European series that they have put on, which I've spoken about a good few times now on this show, and it really is stacked with serious prospects, from Dakota Decheva and Simeon Powell to, the Irish contingent as well, Franz Malambo, who you couldn't call a prospect at this stage. He's a top level fighter. Obviously Dylan Chuk is going to be on the card. Nathan Kelly is going to be on the card. John Mitchell, obviously, as well in the finale, as well as many more fighters as well. And I just think it's a very interesting time, because this KSW 88 card is a good card. KSW 89 is the big card to end out the year in December. That is with Paranasin, the main event, and that's going to be a huge card. But I think the fight is well and truly on, because you almost can't half-arse these cards now. You almost can't do it, because someone else will put on a good card on the same night or the same weekend. Someone else will win the favour of the fans. Someone else will win the favour of the fighters too. You see a lot of fighters recently. I actually spoke to Brad about it on the preview this week for Cage Warriors, and was saying, do you know what I just noticed? There's a few Octagon vets on here. There's a few KSW vets on here, and you look at the KSW cards, you look at the Octagon cards, you look at the FEN as well, and Babylon, and all. There's fighters going between all of these different places, looking for the best place for them. Maybe they've taken a few losses and want a new lease on life and go on a run on somewhere else, or maybe they think, okay, look, I could stay here, but I want to get towards the UFC, or I want to get more money, or wherever it might be, and they move to a different organisation. And for the fighters, that's absolutely fantastic to have more options than they've ever had before, not only at the very, very top level, but at the European level as well. And that is fantastic. KSW, as I said the last time, they deserve massive credit for being one of the only places in town where you could make a good living in for a whole career. But now there's other places that maybe haven't reached that level yet, or are definitely not the assurity of they're going to be around for an awful long time. But it seems to be becoming a more sustainable market for up-and-coming fighters. You only need these promotions to hang around for 3 or 4 years until you move to the next level, or whatever it might be, So, and that's not necessarily the case of KSW. Obviously, as I said, they're the best place to give whole careers to people. But I just think it's so interesting. It feels like KSW have the advantage over the rest of them in terms of the higher level of fighters. The fighters who are 20 fights into their career, whereas a lot of the Cage Warriors fighters, especially, are at the start of their career, building towards the UFC or wherever it might be. Similarly with the PFL fighters, a lot of them young in their career, trying to get to the global PFL roster next year and all of that as well. So it's just very interesting to see where the cookie crumbles. What's the story going to be with Bellator as well? Obviously they have somewhat taken a hold of the European market over the last few years. Are they going to stick around? Are they going to be bought by PFL? If they are bought by PFL, what are PFL going to do? You know, there's talks of this Belfast card for Bellator. We and this is not me reporting anything or anything, but we've seen Liam McCourt talking about it, and Chris Cyborg, and we've seen a few of the Irish fighters basically saying, "Oh, I've been booked." So, you know, is that going to happen? You know, our PFL obviously coming to Ireland here at the end of the year. There's talks now of Octagon putting on a few shows next year, maybe coming to Ireland as well. So there's, you know, for the Irish market, but for the UK market as well, they're always going to go there. And for the European market as a whole, it's a big time. And look, this is something I'm going to touch on probably on every podcast that I do concerning these KSW cards and the others as well, because it's probably, you know, one of the stories that maybe flies under the radar a little bit, but definitely one that's not flown under my radar, and one that I want to keep people, you know, because if you're tuning into this, you probably want to hear about this, and you probably want to know what the situation is and everything like that. And I think this, if I was to sum up what the situation is at the moment in European MMA, I would say it's in a state of complete flux, but a very positive flux, right? Because sometimes like, oh, what's going on? Where's everyone going to go? What's going to happen? But now there's just lots of options, to be honest, more than anything else. And as I said, we'll see what happens with Bellator. We'll see what happens with the PFL next year as well. And we will go from there, and we'll keep trucking and keep talking about it. But for today, let's talk about KSW 88 from Radom in Poland. Shout out again to my guy Sean Dinny, who always helps out with the pronunciations and the facts and the figures and all on these cards. He's an absolute legend and is always great to help out. Check out his work over in Severe Man at Dinny Rants as well on Twitter. He's an absolute beacon of knowledge when it comes to KSW and the European side of MMA, covering Octagon and things as well. Sean does a great job altogether. We'll start with the main event. Daniel Rutkowski, who's 16-3, against Patryk Kaczmarczyk, who is 10-2 in his career. Sorry. Yes, that is correct. I happen to have the wrong KSW card up in front of me, Johnny. 16-3 versus 10-2, indeed. And it's a very interesting fight. Do you know what? These are two big brutes of men, and in, you know, different types of ways. Daniel is like your more muscular, in the weight room, probably 8 days out of 7. You know, one of those guys, an absolute monster. Whereas Patryk on the other side of it is, I would say, more athletic, more quick, but he still has that musculature makeup that just makes him a guy who you know is going to be strong. And I think strength is a big part of both of their games, which I'll get to in a second. But Rutkowski, he's 34 years old, with obviously the more experience, 19 fights into his career versus 12 for Kaczmarczyk. You know, he got called out by Patryk and he accepted it. He's fighting out of CrossFit Radom Gym, so this is a hometown fight for him. Actually, I believe it's a hometown fight for both of them, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, Patryk is fighting out of the Radom Taekwondo Club. But it's funny. I was watching obviously both of their fights, and you look at Patryk Kaczmarczyk, and my first note down was Greco-Roman wrestler, but then I was watching some of Daniel, and he is an actual Greco-Roman wrestler. He started out that way. He was a Polish champion Greco-Roman, so it's a very interesting, because Kaczmarczyk, a lot of his takedowns and a lot of how he gets the guys to the ground and puts it into jiu-jitsu where he's very good is that kind of body lock trip takedowns, which is going to be very hard to get against the Greco-Roman guy like Rutkowski. So that's definitely one place to look out for it. But Rutkowski was he was simultaneous FEN and Babylon 145-pound champion, came over to KSW, lost to Saladin Parnas, who will be headlining the next card, but everyone has lost to Saladin Parnas. As I said, Polish wrestling champion in the Greco-Roman, but a very good striker now, has had pro boxing matches, has had kickboxing matches, and has a lot of KOs in MMA over the last while as well. 7 KOs in his MMA career to date. If you were to describe him as a fighter, I suppose you would put him as a switch stance fighter, primarily a southpaw, but a switch stance fighter. Again, very muscular, loves that pressure, and his pressure is very much helped by that switching of stances. Cuts off the cage really, really well, and you saw it in his head kick knockout of Vrtacic, where he cut off the cage for, I think it was it the third round or into the second? It was a good bit into the fight anyway. Kind of frustrated him. You saw Vrtacic moving to the right and he got caught with that left high kick, and it was absolutely fantastic. So that's the sort of fighter he is. Very patient. Looks like a guy, he's a lot of muscle, and you're kind of thinking, is this guy going to be able to carry that cardio-wise later into the contest? But he is, because he's so good at cutting off that cage. And it's almost like he looks like he expends more energy than he does, but very patient. And when he needs to be, he's very, very powerful as well. A good fighter, 34 years of age now, and he's been in there with some good guys. He's been there with Lamali Askiev, who we've talked about a good few times on this podcast. As I mentioned, Filip Vrtacic obviously lost to Parnas, but he won 4 rounds with him. Adrian Zielinski and a few more as well. Lucas Rutkowski, who's obviously a veteran, I suppose, of the scene. Dylan Logan, back in the day, a very good Irish standout as well at Clan Wars a good few years ago, and he's even fought on that Bama back in the day. So been around for a good long time. And his opponent is a little bit newer, I suppose. 12 fights into his career, having made his debut in 2019. But the guys he's been in with are very good as well. He's been in there with Robert Rochala, ended up losing that fight by a decision. But to be in there with a guy like that, only a few fights into your career, I suppose says a lot. He's won his last 2 now in a row, and he's looking to, I suppose, go forward here. Only 25 years of age, very, very confident. Kind of walks the walks, talk the talk. He was a featherweight champion outside of KSW as well, I believe, in Armia Fight Night. Mostly known as a wrestler early, but has some very good submissions, but has improved his striking, and has a big knee as well. If I would describe him as a fighter after watching a few of his fights, I would say high hands are probably the first thing he has, and he kind of does that, dips low and reaches in with the jab, where he's almost at a 90-degree angle, and it's good but dangerous. When you're fighting a guy like Daniel, the way he kicks and hits hard and counters very well as well. I said he pressure, but he counters very well. That low kind of reach in is a dangerous game to be playing. So I think he'll really need to use his speed here if he is to do that. He is a very fast fighter. And he uses that speed to close the distance. His opponent does it in a very different way. Rutkowski kind of, as I mentioned, does it with the switching of stances, does it with the pressure. He closes the distance very much with speed, with using his, that long jab and getting inside. But he's very, very strong in the clinch. The body lock takedowns are brilliant. And he uses that athleticism in all parts of his game. He really, really, really does. And it's a tough matchup to get past based on that athleticism alone. When you're a 24-year-old guy going up against a 34-year-old guy, 25-year-old guy, and you're already more athletic, you're already faster, that's a relatively tough matchup. I'm just looking forward to seeing who kind of lands the first blow here, because it kind of comes across to me, this one, as if one person is going to land something big and the other one's going to have to kind of change their game, because they have opposing games in a way. They're both guys who like to come forward, both guys who like to control the pace and cadence of the fight, but not both of them can't do that. They can't do it. So whoever lands that big shot first. Looking at the prices here, minus 350 for Rutkowski, and Patryk is plus 260. And that was kind of the way I was seeing it too before I'd even seen those prices. I literally just pulled them up here now. I do think Rutkowski should be the favourite. I do think that counter strike to the kind of the inward pressure of Patryk is going to be money for him, to be honest. I think with the Greco-Roman background, I think Kaczmarczyk is going to struggle to take him down, and if he can't do that on the feet, Rutkowski is, as I said, a very good striker, a lot of power as well, and might have some success there. So I am going for him to win this one. The second fight of the evening, and the one I'll concentrate a lot on as well, is Bartosz Lesko against Piotr Kuberski. Two two guys who've been around for a bit, 13-3-2 against 12-2, I believe. 11-1 is Kuberski. Lesko, I suppose the standout on his record is Ibrahim Magomedov, who he beat back in 2021. He's also been in there with Tom Breeze. He ended up losing that fight, but he's been around now for a good bit, as I mentioned, making his debut back in 2015, whereas Kuberski on the other side of it, he's getting on a bit now. He's 35 years of age as opposed to his 27-year-old opponent with 12 fights into his career, only losing that one back in 2019 in the third fight of his career. And maybe there aren't as many standout known names on his ledger, but he's a lot of finishes in there, 9 wins by knockout in his 11 wins, so he's definitely a finisher without a shadow of a doubt. The betting odds on this one are very, very even, -110 for Lesko, Kuberski -120, and that's kind of the way I'm looking at it too, to be honest. The betting odds don't be very, very far off at all. Lesko is just big and strong and long. He's that very good jab, very fast counters, and he doesn't look like it. You look at, in the last fight that I was talking about, you look at Kaczmarczyk and you just think, this guy is an athlete. This guy is going to be fast. This guy is going to be strong. He's going to have it all. You wouldn't say the same thing about Lesko, but then you see him fight, and that ability to throw those like short elbows and those short right hands and hooks inside are like something that you shouldn't see from a guy his size, but he's very, very good at doing that. And as I said, gangly, but it works for him. Kuberski on the other side of it, then I would say he looks a similar way, but he's probably not as athletic as Lesko in terms of what he shows in it. He's your normal straight up fighter, a good jab, a good right hand behind it, which we've seen, look at say like a guy like Leon Edwards, it's taken him all the way to the very, very top, and that can, if you're good enough in terms of your technical ability, you're good enough in terms of your chin and your heart and your ability to stay in there and all of that. And I think that one, that maybe might come off to some people as like a drawback or something, but it's not necessarily, it's not, and especially against a guy like Lesko, who is maybe not the the most straightforward fighter in the world. It might actually help. So Lesko, he can, and both guys can wrestle as well. Lesko's a very good wrestler, very good at taking the back. He's a lot of submissions on his record as well. 7 of his 13 fights have ended in a submission. He's only 2 knockouts in the middle of all that there. So he is a guy who likes to wrestle and likes to get the submissions and loves that rear naked choke. Hard thing on the feet, not obviously his first way to the win. Kuberski on the other side of it then, if I'm not mistaken, this is his first fight in KSW. He's had a lot of fights outside of KSW in bigger organizations like UAE Warriors, and his last, I think, 4 or 5 fights in FEN, who do a lot of events, obviously. Trains out of the Ankos MMA gym in Poznan. Big power in his hands behind, the kind of the non-flashy techniques, if you want to put it like that. And he's a lot of, I suppose, early finishes in his career. Out of his last 4 fights, 3 of them have been first round finishes. All his most of his recent finishes, or most of his recent wins, have all been early finishes, with only a couple of decisions thrown in there for good measure as well. Very good cardio though when he needs it, and good heart as well if he needs to go a longer distance. I like Lesko here, to be honest. I know I said earlier maybe like the straight up just technical fighting, if you want to put it like that, or technical mightn't be the word for it. Maybe it's like a drama-free fighting. It can be an advantage, and especially at the higher up weight classes, with obviously this being middleweight. But I like Lesko. I like the way he fights. I like the way he kind of lands that shot inside. And Kuberski, I mentioned earlier about Lesko kind of throwing the short shots inside, short elbows, short hooks inside. That's kind of the range Kuberski always finds himself in. And I'd honestly be surprised if one of them didn't land. And if one does land, you could see him getting that takedown, getting the back, and maybe getting the choke in there. So I'm not sure if I'm going for the submission, but I'm going for Lesko anyway to get the win there. A couple of names then in the light heavyweight division. Marcin Vojcik is taking on Luis Henrique de Silva, two guys who have been around again for a very long time. 18-8 for Vojcik, 19-9. Funnily enough, for Henrique. Vojcik, known as the Giant, has been around a lot. He has won his last 4 in a row. He beat Mick Stanton over in the PFL in 2022 in the playoffs, but didn't manage, obviously, to get more fights than that. As I said, like, he's fought the who's who all over the place. Fought Modestas Bukauskas in Cage Warriors. He's been in KSW before. Obviously, he fought Scott Ascom and Thomas Narcoon, as we all remember that big submission win for Thomas Narcoon back at KSW 38. So he's been around the place for a very, very long time. As has Henrique de Silva. Frankenstein. People might remember him from fighting in the UFC back in the day. He was on Dana White Contender Series and stuff as well, but he fought Gokhan Saki famously in the UFC. He fought Johnny Walker on the Contender Series as well, but he's been around and beat Thomas Narcoon in KSW, fought Rug last time out in KSW. Or why was it Rug? No, it was who did he fight last? God, what's his name? Not Rug. The Umar Sai he fought last time out. Not Rug. I'm gone mad here, but like the amount of people he's fought down through the years, it's just a few of the names I've named there, and he's lost most of those fights. Let's be honest, but he's always been in there and always been dangerous. 19 fights have been in the wheeling column for him. 18 finishes, 17 knockouts with the one submission in there as well, and that tells you all you need to know about Henrique de Silva. I suppose he'll just come to stand and bang. As I mentioned, that Narcoon front kick knockout, 34 years of age now, and Vojcik, he's something to prove here as well, coming back to KSW at the same age. Heavy hitting striker as well, with 9 knockouts in his resume, but he can grapple, he can choke as well. Very rarely goes to decision, either of these guys, and I'd be surprised if this one did go to a decision as well here. Let me get you the price on this one. It's plus 180 for De Silva and Vojcik minus 250. Do you know what? At that price, I'm gonna go with Henrique de Silva at that price. We've a heavyweight fight then after that. Stefan Vojcak against Kamil Gaawryjolek, 6-1 versus 5-0 there as well. Two kind of obviously newer guys to the heavyweight division there. And whenever you see that in KSW, one of these guys could be the next big thing. Vojcak, 33 years of age, Slovakian prospect. Well-rounded, a big guy, heavy submission game, but, comes out and looks for the knockout. Kamil is 26 years old, out of Poland, comes out of the gates fast as well, all wins in the first round. Big knockout power, a kickboxer, but a good wrestler too, and a heavy top game there. Let me just get you the price for that if I can. Very even, both minus 110 as I look at it here. I'll go for the Polish guy in his home country. I'll go for Kamil Gaawryjolek to get the win there in that one. Then we have a women's strawweight fight between Anita Bekus at 7-3 against Maria Silva, 9-1. Bekus is a 33-year-old. She used to do fitness competitions before fighting out of Lutz, who have a very good women's team there. Octopus Lads, I believe, is the name of the gym. Sean was telling me that. And she's someone that's coming on and off a lot, 33 years of age, good wrestler, very, very hard to get off you, I suppose. Power on the feet as well, and improves, fight to fight. Her opponent, 27 years of old, fighting out of Brazil. She fought on Aries. She was on the Contender Series as well before. And I suppose we'll see how this one goes. I think. I think it's very interesting when people have fought at such different, I suppose, places in the mixed martial arts landscape, especially in women's MMA. It's tough to know where to match them up. I've been watching a lot of Invicta and things recently, and it's until they get there, it's tough. Like Danny McCormack, I think, is a good example. You're thinking, oh, Danny's going in there against these monsters, and she goes in and she's beating them all, but obviously the level she's been fighting at is a little bit higher. So I wonder which is the higher level here. I'm very interested to see which way this this goes. Maria Silva is the big favourite, though. She's minus 350, plus 250 for Anita Bekus. From the little bits and pieces I've seen of them, I think that's just about right. But as I said, tough to gauge the ability levels there. The middleweight division then. Albert Odzimkowski against Nemanja Nikolic. I'm so good at pronouncing these names. Like, I'm absolutely fantastic altogether at it. Albert fighting out of Poland, 34 years of age. If you're an Irish person listening to this, he fought Henrique a couple of fights ago. Won his last fight outside of KSW, but he's been in there with some very good guys. As I mentioned, Henrique, he beat Tommy Quinn as well, but he's been in there with Christian Eckerling, who's doing great stuff now over in Octagon. His opponent, Nemanja Nikolic, he actually lost to Bartosz Lesko, who's in the co-main event last time out, but he was on a great run before that. Was undefeated, in fact, before that. And, we'll see where he comes back after his big finisher. 10 fights, 9 inside the distance, 4 knockouts and 5 submissions. So a big fight for him here. Very talented guy out of Serbia. When you lose your KSW debut, you want to bounce back immediately, and get on a good run in KSW. But he's good kickboxing game, but knockouts, as I mentioned. His opponent Albert, he's 35 years of age, but he's a hometown favourite here, fighting out of Radom. He's a KSW commentator actually on the Polish broadcast, so he'll definitely be a big favourite here. He started out as a judoka, but he's a boxer as well and can fight all around, good submissions, and as I mentioned, good on the ground as well. Let me just get you the price on that one if I have it here. Minus 175 for Nikolic, and Albert is plus 135 here. I'll go for Albert to get the all upset here. All right, that's there's a couple more fights. I'll just quickly run through them here. There's a featherweight fight between Daniel Turcheltluk and Ramzan Jembiev, 20 years of age. Daniel is against 23-year-old Ramzan. From the little I've seen of Daniel, he's a really, really, really talented guy fighting out of Moldova. Very well-rounded, durable, very good kickboxer, has submissions as well. And his opponent fighting out of France, he's a training partner of Saldin Parnasse. A street fighting background, spectacular knockout in his debut with a massive head kick, very, very flashy on the feed. So you could be looking at a future champion in that there then. Middleweight division is the second to opening fight on the night, where you have Christian Bielski at 9-5 against 5-2 Andi Vrtacic. 4-2 Andi Vrtacic. Bielski, 30 years of age, out of Poland, known for these exciting fights, very good kickboxer, knockout power, good cardio, whereas Andi, 28 years of age, he got a knockout in his KSW debut, came through the FNC scene in Croatia, a very heavy puncher, loves to spin and throw big attacks, good cardio as well from him. The price on that one, if they have it, they do indeed. Plus 230 for Andi, and Christian Bielski is minus 333 there. And in the opening bout of the night, it's a catchweight bout, I believe. Jacek Gach against Mikel Gniady, 1-0 versus 2-0. And when guys are like that starting off, you never know where it's going to go. But Jack is the 2-0 fighter. He's 32 years of age though. Trains with the likes of Radek Pazuski and Arik Vojcik. Very good kickboxer, heavy knockout artist. And in the 1-0, Gandhi, 25 years of age, training out of Smok with the likes of Boris Mankowski and Matthias Skamrat. very good on the ground, guillotine chokes, improving striking game, but with knockout power as well from him. So that is it. The KSW 88 card from top to bottom. As I said, shout out to Sean Denny, and check this out. You can watch it over on the KSW website. You can see it there. So check it out over there, and keep onto sherdog.com all weekend for your results and much more from that. All right, everyone, I will leave it there. My name is Sean Sheehan for sherdog.com, and I'll see you all next time.